Hey there, greetings everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. One of those other forms is heavy metal, and we're here today to do a series, the mini-series that we started yesterday called Masterpiece, featuring Black Sabbath. So what I've done is I've taken the 7 masterpiece albums, and they're personal masterpiece albums to me, which that means that they're albums that I classify as masterpieces. You may not see them that way. You may have different ones, and that's fine. That's what it's all about. Everybody sees things, hears things differently. Everybody has things they like more than other things, and that's the way it has to be, because if you had only one list of albums that you could consider masterpieces put out by some bureaucrat or somebody like that and said, these are the masterpiece albums, you can't call anything else masterpiece, you have to listen to them, that's the way it is, we wouldn't be too happy about it. So I'm not going to enforce that, and I don't expect you to as well. So anyways, we are here to talk about, on day 2 of this mini-series, we're here to talk about another masterpiece album presented by me that is my favorite, among my favorite albums. And I will just briefly describe it a little bit again, how I came. Well, first of all, I should tell you the album, right? Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. This came out in November of 1973. So, and how I came to determine how I'm going to do all 7 of these episodes, nothing to do with ranking. These are not my favorite, least favorite to my most favorite, or my most favorite to my least favorite, or how I view them or anything like that. It's just, it was a random thing. I used a set of dice, and the one with the highest number went first. This one came out with the second highest number, so it's going second. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. About this, well, so basically what I'm going to be doing in this series is talking about these albums and why they became masterpieces, and personal stuff about them, and how I came to determine that, and all that kind of stuff. So the thing that the reason this became a masterpiece album for me, it was one of, as you've probably heard, if you watched the first episode, you'll know this. I became friends with a young guy when we were about 8. We listened to one Sabbath song at the time, Paranoid, and later we heard little bits and snippets of stuff. So we decided we wanted to get into this band in a big way in the late 70s, as we were trying to break the chains of Kiss on us. And he was much easier at breaking them than I was. But at any rate, in the late 70s, like from about 78 through to about 1980, we started venturing out and listening to different stuff. Black Sabbath was one of the first 4 bands that we got into. And so what happened, by the time 1980 came around, I maybe had a half dozen to a dozen albums. Maybe as many as 20, I'm not quite sure, but Sabbath wasn't amongst any of those albums. They were all, basically about half of them were Kiss albums, and then the rest were hits and misses here that people had bought me or I had gotten on my own. But so what happened is that we decided on a couple of albums. Once we got Heaven and Hell, we both got Heaven and Hell. We loved it, so we started going backwards in the discography. So we'd come up with 2 albums, he'd get one, I'd get the other, we'd record each other, and then the tapes, and then that's how it worked. So I had all of them, and he had all of them, but I had some of them in album form, like this, or CD form, well, album form back then, and he had cassette for the other one. So Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath was one of the albums I remember getting. I got this was probably I want to say, by the time I got this album, I probably had at least 3 other Sabbath albums before it, so it was probably about the 5th one I got. Definitely a killer album to begin with. I loved it right off the bat. It starts out with that really heavy track, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. My personal feelings on this album is that it's one of their best. It's different than a lot of their other stuff, though. The artwork on this is actually amongst the best of their albums, I think. Front, and if you go onto the inside cover, you get the kind of blue part, which is supposed to be more like heaven, and this is supposed to be more like hell. I would assume that was what it was meant to be, and I don't see how he could assume anything else. You've got demons over top of him here, and then you've got, or is that a woman? Actually, it's a guy. Hard to tell sometimes because of the way the drawing is, but over top of him here, and then you have him lying sick here. He's still alive here, but he ends up going, where. Anyways, just a little observation. I don't know if it's correct or not. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, so such a great album. This one's a little different than the earlier ones because it has elements on it that they don't really have. There's a few songs on here that almost have a kind of progressive sound to them. The album is a little bit milder sounding too, not so heavy metal, although the tracks that are metal on here are definitely heavy as hell. And so for me, it started out with the song Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I loved it. Instantly loved this song. The heavy, distorted, fuzzy, forward-sounding bass on that song is incredible. And then you've got the guitar mixed in. It's just really heavy song. Ozzy's voice is screeching high and hard here, almost distorted. The album itself is a little bit better. I think it's a little better quality than some of its predecessors. Not by much, though. It's still that early 70s sound. Still has that kind of feel to it. Dated, that kind of stuff. But really good stuff on it. So then my favorite song initially was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. But I quickly became enamored with the opening track on the second side, which is Killing Yourself to Live. Probably my favorite track on the album. Such an incredibly heavy song as well. And you got some other songs here that don't seem to fit into that. After Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, they go to National Acrobat, which is, it's kind of a different song. It definitely has some progressive elements to it. Easier, not as heavy for sure. Fluff is even less heavy. And you got Sabracadabra, which features some keyboards here. And I believe this is the song that Rick Wakeman plays the keyboards on. Yeah, it definitely has a progressive sound to it as well. Then you go back to that real heavy stuff with Killing Yourself to Live. Who Are You? This is more synthesizer-driven stuff here. Definitely thought-provoking song, but also it's got that heavy element to it, but it has a lot of that kind of progressive sound to it as well. Looking for Today, this is more of a little bit more of a poppy song. I wouldn't say it's poppy, but it's definitely leaning more that way than the rest of the album. And then you got Spiral Architect, which I think is one of the masterpiece songs by this band. Really catchy. Also, lots of progressive sound to this song as well. So I would say this has kind of got that kind of progressive. And it's not like it's progressive metal. I don't think it's progressive metal. I think it's just some of the songs are progressive, more progressive, and some of the songs are more metal. They're not really mixed well on this, in my opinion. But really strong track. There's no bad songs on this album. I love everything on here. It's just uniquely different for Sabbath, I think. For me, the outstanding track, of course, is Killing Yourself to Live. I think it's just stood the test of time. Really well-loved song by me, and I think a lot of people love this song quite a bit too. So the album over the years hasn't really changed that much. I don't listen to it as much as some of the other ones, but when I'm in the mood for it, I really want to hear it. And it comes through very well on the headphones. You can hear a lot of stuff. And the beefy parts of this, the metal sounding parts of this are among the best out there, I think. Its current status with me is still pretty strong. I think it's a very memorable, stands up well over time album, and a lot of Sabbath albums do. For me, this definitely is a masterpiece and belongs on this list for sure. So there you have it. So that's my that's episode 2 finished. I hope you like. If you do, please like it and subscribe. Any comments about the album Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, or Black Sabbath in general, or anything about the album that you think I missed, or you think that you want to tell me about, or maybe you heard something you didn't agree with. That's all fine. You can put that all down there. There's always open room for debate if you want to debate it. But it's still going to be a masterpiece no matter what you say to me. So if you want to get notified of the next episode, which will come out Wednesday morning, episode 3, please hit the notification bell. And we will see you Wednesday morning, or we'll see you, Wednesday morning for the next episode. So take care and have yourself a good day. Goodbye.